Hello. So in this video I'm going to change things up a little bit and simply go on a nice long flight. Don't worry, I won't bore you with the entire flight. I'll cut out most of the cruise when nothing is happening. So the basic plan is to fly from Bournemouth on the south coast of England, up over Wales and over to Belfast. At first I was hoping to simply jump between VOR stations at major cities, which would allow me a relatively easy IFR flight. However, it turns out that there's a limited number of VORs along the route. So after looking at the FSX map to see what navigation aids are available, I've amended my plan to this, which follows almost the exact same route that I was looking for. So I'm going to start at Bournemouth and fly up to Bristol by homing into the Bristol NDB. Once I reach that, I'm going to turn due north and hold that heading for about 30 minutes, which should take me up towards Liverpool. The nearest VOR station to Liverpool is here at Wallasey, so after half an hour I should be in range of that station, so I'm going to tune into it and fly directly to it. Once I reach Wallasey, I'm going to fly an outbound radial of 010 degrees, which should take me up towards a town called Blackpool. As I'm flying this leg, I'm going to tune into the Isle of Man VOR and look to intercept the 290 radial inbound to that station. This intercept should happen very close to Blackpool. As I fly over the Isle of Man, I'm going to tune into the Belfast VOR and continue flying until I intercept the 310 radial into Belfast. Then, once I get to about 30 nautical miles away, I'll start my descent and land at Belfast Aldergrove, which is Belfast's main international airport. Just as a side note, I also plan to cruise along at 8,000 feet. So because the FSX flight planner is kind of limited in what it allows you to do, I haven't been able to exactly recreate this plan, so this is going to be treated in the simulator as a VFR flight. So to prepare for the flight, what I did is I went into FSX and grabbed all the details for each nav aid along the route. So I've grabbed radio frequencies for the airports, for NDBs, and VORs and all of their Morse code identifiers. So I'll have all of these to hand as I fly. Also, preparing for the flight itself, I'm going to use current real world weather, which will be generated by Real Environment Extreme, or REX's weather engine. So I've gathered weather information for Bournemouth and Belfast, so I know what to expect when I get there, but of course that might change. So without further ado, let's jump into the plane and get started. So here is the A2A Cessna 172, and I absolutely love this plane. It just offers so much more over the default FSX Cessna, and hopefully I'll get to demonstrate that over the course of the flight. So one of the cool things with this plane is that it's so realistic that you need to treat it as if it was a real plane. So with that, I'm going to start off with a pre-flight check. So hopefully everything goes okay, because from this point onwards nothing is scripted. I'm probably going to stutter and stammer, but hopefully you guys will gain something from it. Anyway, here we go. Okay, here we are in the plane. So let's start with our pre-flight checklist. So, let's bring up this panel here. That's the wrong panel to the video. Right, so basically we've got a checklist here, and what we're going to do is we're just going to do sort of a walk around of the plane, just have a look at it and make sure it's in good condition. So first of all, we need to remove the pitot tube cover. I think that's already been removed, so that's fine. Pilot's operating handbook. I've got a printed out copy with me, so I'll probably be referring to that during the video. Weight and balance. So we want to make sure that we've got enough sort of fuel for the flight, and that the fuel in each wing is level. So 4, that's good. So we've got 64 and 63%. I'm going to put both tanks up to about 90%. Or actually I think 80. 80 will be fine. Yeah, that's good. And close that. Okay, so weight and balance is all fine. Parking brake is set. Control wheel lock, that's this thing here. Remove that so we can move the controls. What's next? What I'm actually going to do is remove this yoke here so I can move all the switches and all that down here. Let's see, what was next? Ignition switch is off. Avionics master switch is off. Battery master switch on. Excellent. Pitot heat on. Fuel quantity, so closer look in here. Yep, fuel quantity is good and it's balanced as well. That's exactly what we want. Avionics master switch on. Should hear a beep. It's alive. Okay. Static pressure alternate source. I think that's that little red lever down there. That's pushed in. So yeah, when it's pushed in, that means it's off. That's good. Annunciator panel test. So make sure all of the warnings light up there under test conditions, which they do. And then once they stop flashing, we should keep the oil pressure and vacuum. Excellent. So it's all looking good so far. Fuel selector set to both. That's that there. Fuel shut-off valve is pushed in. Flaps extend. So the flaps are just hiding just under here. So and then what I did there was just switch off the pitot heat, the avionics, and also the battery master switch, and then set the elevator trim for takeoff, which is about there. Right, so let's move outside the plane and have a quick look around. So this is the pitot tube, and the reason we want to heat it up is to prevent any water from getting inside of it and then freezing and icing up. Because if that happens, then our airspeed indicator won't work. It's kind of bad. Make sure our luggage is secure. And then we just go through and check all of the joints to make sure they're all in good condition. That's one of the things I love about this plane, is that you could use this plane in the simulator and then go and have a look at a real aircraft, and then you'll know sort of what to look for, what joints and bits and pieces to look for, and what you need to be doing on the plane. So just make sure that the flap isn't going anywhere, and then again just check all the joints, make sure they're all in good condition. Check the aileron joints here, they're all good. Check the right wing, make sure it's there, which is good. Tires, they're there as well. You can also check what you're looking for when you check fuel is just making sure there's no like dirt or it's a nice kind of sky blue colour there, so that's all good. Fuel quantity is just about 21 litres, which is good. Oil quantity is about 7 quarts, which is good. You can see it gives you notes here about what you're looking for as well, which is really good. That's why it's considered a trainer aircraft, this. So that's all good. And then you're just checking obviously the propeller and the intake, make sure there's no obvious damage or blockages. Check the static port on the side here, so it's kind of hard to see, it's just here on this plane. So you just want to make sure that that's not, because that's good. That gives you some important readings in the cockpit as well. Fuel level on the left side is good. Fuel quality on the left side is good. And then you're just checking tires. Make sure the stall warning slot is not blocked, and also make sure the fuel drain is not blocked. And then just checking the general condition of the wing and all of the linkages. Make sure the flap's there. And that concludes. And so that's a very quick look at it, but hopefully you get an idea of how to do it. So the next step would be to get the engine started and get moving. So other panel here. I think page 2. So yeah, so this is all of our kind of pre-flight stuff that we've done before. So that's good. So let's get the engine running. So throttle cracked, so that means just have it open slightly. Mixture is idle or full back. So master switch on. Beacon light on. Remember, that's to warn people not to get near the plane. So auxiliary fuel pump, switch it on. was just to prime the engine, just to get it ready for starting up. Propeller area clear. Well, it will be. We're in a simulator. There's no one going to walk in front of it. And then we'll just add a little bit of mixture there, and then let's get the engine started. Wish me luck. There we go. So, engine started. Unfortunately, the air got loud for my audio setup, so what I'm going to do is turning the sound off. Actually, I'll do it. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't alter the sound of the engine with my kind of current recording setup, so I'm going to have to do a lot of the flight with the engine and the aircraft noises sort of muted. Yeah, what I'll do is I'll deal with that as the flight goes on, basically. So, mixture, we advance that up to full, and then once the engine's up and running, obviously you want to check the temperature and pressure. So I'll have a close look there on both. The pressure's in the green, which is the main thing at the moment. The temperature will rise as the engine starts to warm up. So navigation lights on, and whatnot, avionics on. So now we'll just bring up all of our radios, make sure they're all switching on and working as they should be. Excellent. So all of our avionics are on. Let's see. Avionics are on, radios are on, and then we'll retract the flaps. So I'll bring the flaps up to 10 degrees, just down here, for takeoff. So we'll do a 10-degree flap takeoff. We don't really need to. Bournemouth's got a really long runway, but it's what I'm kind of used to. So so we'll go with that. Okay. Right. What I'm going to do at this point is just start getting all the radios set up. So Bournemouth ground is 121.7. So get that dialed in there. What else do I want to do? Get the autopilot set up to 8,000 feet as well, so we'll enable that shortly after takeoff. And yeah, what was the get our altimeter dialed in as well at this point. So it's 1018 millibars at the moment in Bournemouth. 1018, perfect. Right, let's move on to the next stage of flight. So, before takeoff, seats, belts and doors. Everyone at home, make sure all your seatbelts are securely fastened and all the rest of it. Flight controls, yep, they work. Have a look around. You just make sure that obviously the controls are doing what you expect them to do. Flight instruments, check and set, so that's what I was just now. Actually what I'll do is I'll dial in the Bournemouth Tower as well, so we're ready to switch onto that when we get out to the runway. So it's 125.6. Cool, so we've got ground as the active frequency just now, and the tower frequency is standby. And then just double check the fuel quantity, make sure nothing's leaking out. Yep, it's still good, still balanced. Excellent. So, from now on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pause the checklist here, because the next few steps will be to do what's called a power check on the aircraft. So just make sure the engine's running at the right power and it's performing as you'd expect. So what I'm going to do is just talk to ATC, get clearance for takeoff, or get clearance to taxi rather, and then we'll find our way to the runway and do a power check just before we go onto the runway. So I'm just going to bring the sound back just now, just so we can listen into air traffic control. Okay, so we've got taxi clearance, and I just had to turn on progressive taxi because I don't know my way around Bournemouth. So the engine's running at steady 1000 RPM, so that should be just enough to get us rolling after releasing the brakes. Excellent. So just let it gather a little bit of speed to start off with, and then we'll start turning it around. Just give it a tiny bottle as well, just to help it along. Now I'm going to admit, I did actually do sort of an initial test flight, just to kind of practice this, and it didn't go well. I ended up literally doing a lap of the airport after I got taxi clearance, and then shortly after takeoff I stalled the plane. So hopefully this one goes a bit better. Yeah, it was a complete mess yesterday because the weather, because I'm using real world weather right now, so and the weather in Bournemouth yesterday was terrible, and they wouldn't let me do a VFR flight. They wouldn't let me do VFR conditions, so I had to like stop the video and then try and set up an IFR plan, and then after takeoff I was trying to cancel it, and then I lost control of the plane, and it was just messy. It was really bad. So hopefully this one goes a bit better. I learned valuable lessons from that flight yesterday, and that's what failure is all about, is learning lessons from it. So I'm not taxiing properly because I'm trying to just save some time to get into the runway. But yeah, literally, I'd done an entire lap of the airport yesterday. I think I'd done the entire lap of the airport. I went into Bournemouth town itself. Went and had went to a cafe, had a cup of coffee. It was brilliant. It was fantastic. Anyway, so I think this taxi is going to take a little bit of time. So I'm just going to skip the video until I get down to the runway there. Okay, so here we are, just arriving at runway 8. So what I'm going to do is just slow the plane down and just sort of turn it into the wind for pick. So just down there. Okay, so once that's pointing there, we'll get the parking brake set. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just run through the power check. So what we're going to do is just basically run the engine up to 1800 RPM and then just check the mag. So you'll see me switching the key down here. You'll see a slight drop in the RPMs, that's to be expected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the sound on so you can hear me do that and see me do that. So yeah, just give me 30 seconds to do this and then everything should be okay. Okay, that all went well. Everything's performing as expected. So, what we're going to do now is just get ourselves back heading towards the runway, and then we'll look for takeoff clearance. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just switch over to our tower frequency and just stop the plane here, and then let's see if we get Again, I do apologise for the sound situation. Okay, it looks like we do have clearance. So, with that clearance, we'll get strobe lights on. Yep, everything is ready to go, I think. So, strobe lights on, and let's get onto the runway, and let's take off. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the sound back on, just so you can sort of hear the Cessna and hear the set of sounds that you get with this plane. And then what I'll do is during the sort of climb, what I'll probably do is turning to a heading of 30, and that will get us going in the general direction to Bristol, and then start to sort of go through setting up the autopilot. So I will catch you in a couple as we're climbing out. Okay, sorry about the sound again there, jumping in and out. Okay, so we're sort of climbing nicely now, at good speed. I kind of messed up my turn a little bit there, but I think we are good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable the autopilot now. So altitude, arm that, and the vertical speed. Come on, let me change the vertical speed. Yeah, practice with this. There we go, so now we should be climbing up to 8,000 feet. And what I'll also do is I'll also enable the heading hold there as well. Okay, so now we're heading along on our climb. So we're going a bit fast at the moment. We should be aiming for 85 knots maximum, because I kind of messed up with the autopilot there. The plane leveled off rather than continue climbing, so let me see if we can climb a bit faster, and that should bring the speed down slightly. which it is doing, which is good. So yeah, one thing we need to be careful of is when we're flying sort of in clouds, we might need to switch on the pitot heat again. There is a notice on it somewhere here. Yeah, down here. It says warning, so the pitot heater must be on when operating below 40 Fahrenheit in IMF conditions, which is kind of what this flight is meant to be. And the higher we climb, then that will end up dropping below 40 Fahrenheit, or possibly even 0 degrees Celsius as well. So I'm gonna switch the pitot heat on now. As I said, that's just to prevent any moisture from icing up inside the pitot tube, which gives us our airspeed. And obviously, if we're flying through clouds, that's moisture that can end up, you can end up getting condensation inside the pitot tube. So with that heated up, that shouldn't happen. Okay, so up at 4,000 feet, traveling at a good speed, 85, back at 85 knots now. What I might end up doing during the climb is I might have to kind of reduce the vertical speed slightly, because the higher up you get, the more the plane will struggle to kind of maintain a positive climb rate of 900 feet per minute. So I might drop that down to about 500 feet at one point. Because obviously if we try to keep climbing at this speed, the plane will end up stalling, and obviously we don't want that to happen again. But yeah, I think everything is working as it should. All of our lights are set up correctly. The plane is automatically trimming itself, or the autopilot is. So yeah, all going good so far. What happens is once we kind of settle at our kind of cruise altitude, then I'll start to play with the automatic direction finder and get the Bristol NDB tuned in there. That's the point. I don't know if you'll be able to hear code because my sound's a bit messed up. Well, when I tune it in, I'll enable the sound again so we can try and listen into the Morse code identifiers. Hopefully it works. Okay, so you see our airspeed's coming down. Oh, lose my voice. Coming down dramatically. So, going to reduce the rate of climb there. We should be a bit kinder to our speed. You can see here that our outside air temperature is now 0 degrees Celsius. So speed's coming back up, which is good. That's what we want. And also, once we get up to this altitude, the engine doesn't perform as well. So what you end up needing to do is actually lean the amount of fuel going into the engine. So when you start kind of leaning that back out, the rev should climb again. So if we have a quick look down here, I can demonstrate this just now. So we'll put that in fully. You can see that the revs are hovering just below 2400. But as we pull the fuel mixture up, you see how the revs are climbing up to 2400 again. So that just helps that higher altitude, basically. It's a good thing I chose to do this IFR, isn't it? Can't really see much what's going on outside. So I've just increased the rate of climb slightly, just because we've kind of gone a bit too fast again there. So yeah, so looking at the checklist again, we're kind of in the middle of our en route climb now. So yeah, there's not much to do here. As it's only a Cessna, so it's quite a simple plane. There's not really much to do in the way of sort of checklists and that. Just keep leaning this out slightly. So the the way I can tell when I've kind of reached the right amount of sort of fuel mixture is I'm actually watching the exhaust temperature gauge over here. So I think the manual says to kind of the fuel mixture until you reach a kind of a peak heat. So once that kind of reaches its highest point, that's when you've kind of got the fuel air mixture right for this altitude. So I'm just kind of slowly watching what that gauge does. I'll get rid of this window quickly so you can keep an eye on it. So pull that back some more. And can you see how the exhaust gas temperature needle is climbing slowly? And you see it going up. So that's one method of working out sort of how much fuel air mixture you need. The other way is by listening to sort of the engine notes and listening to sort of just the sound of the engine. But I prefer doing it through the sort of the exhaust gas temperature instrument here. And while we're over here, we'll just take another quick look at all of the other instruments. So fuel levels are all good, temperature is fine, it's in the green, and the pressure is fine in the green there as well. The amp is at 0, which is fine, so that means that the battery is not being depleted, but it's not being charged either, which is fine, it's balanced. So usually it shows 0 when it's full up. And the vacuum system is what kind of drives all of the sort of the cockpit instruments there, and that's in the green as well. So everything is looking good. So almost up at 8,000. And the plane should start to just nose over. Unless, because yeah, so it's going over now, but we've gone above, and I don't know why. Because the autopilot has its own kind of barometric pressure setting, so the barometric pressure for that is still set to the kind of standard pressure. It's not set to 1018. So if we have a look there, you see it's 2992. So what we're going to have to do is I'm going to have to work out the conversion for that. So if you bear with me 2 seconds, I should be able to do that there. Got a handy little app on my mobile to work it out. Where is it? So as we cruise along, I'm going to aim for an indicated airspeed of 100 knots. So we'll just reduce the throttle as well. So we're going to reduce the engine speed to about 2300, and that should give us an indicated airspeed of 100 knots. And then once I suss out this altitude thing with the autopilot, then we'll have a look at getting the ADF set up to so we can home into Bristol. Okay. So bear with me 2 seconds, guys. I do apologise. Should have been better prepared for this. 1018, and that gives me 30.06 inches of mercury. So we'll just dial that in down here. And you'll see now what happens is the plane should start to descend to get us back to 8,000 feet. So now the autopilot barometric pressure now reads the same barometric pressure as our altimeter. Okay, so while the plane's doing that, let's get ourselves tuned into Bristol. So the frequency for the Bristol NDB is 414 Hz. So we'll dial that in. 414, and then hit that button, and that flicked around there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn the sound back on for a few seconds, and we're going to see if we can hear the Morse code. We might not, just as a warning, but we'll give it a go anyway and see if we can. Okay, so sadly we couldn't hear it over the sound of the engine there, but I'm pretty confident that that's Bristol that we're heading towards now. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to just home into Bristol, so I'm not going to worry about sort of correcting for wind drift or anything. So yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the video here just now, just to kind of save you guys the arduous task of cruising along with me. So what we'll do is once we get a bit closer to Bristol, I will start the video back up, and then we'll have a look at turning north over Bristol, and I think we'll be able to pick up the Wallasey VOR as soon as we make the turn, but I'll sort of talk through that as we get closer to it. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, so we've just finally hit a break in the clouds here, and I think that we're almost about to fly over the top of Bristol. If you have a look at the ADF needle, you see it's just swung around there. And also recognise this stretch of coast here, so I think we are literally on top of Bristol right now. So I'm confident that that's where we are. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn around to due north, and then I'm going to see if I can pick up the Wallasey VOR straight away. I've also adjusted the audio settings slightly, so hopefully we'll be able to hear the Morse code for this one now. So let the plane get settled there. So the Wallasey VOR is on a frequency of 114.10. So just dial that. Make it active, and yes, we have a signal. So what we want to do is make sure that we do have the right signal. So what we're going to do is just turn the sound on again, and we'll listen out for the Morse code. Okay, and that's definitely Wallasey there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just work out what kind of radial we're on at the moment. So it should be around 3435 something. There we go. So it looks like 356 possibly. So that's us centered up with it now. So what we're going to do is get the autopilot to follow that. So we'll switch it on to nav rather than heading, and we'll just adjust the heading bug there as well. And then if my understanding of the autopilot in this aircraft is correct, then that should follow the VOR all Wallasey. So yeah, let's see how that goes. So once again, I'm going to cut the video here to save you the boredom of myself and clouds, and we'll see you again once we get a bit closer to Wallasey, because it looks like it's going to take 1 hour and 20 minutes at the moment, so you definitely don't want to be listening to me for that long. So I'll see you in a second. So I decided in the end that this would be a good place to end this video. I do apologise for the stuttering. I'm definitely going to look at alternate methods of recording to work around that issue for future videos. Anyway, next weekend I'll upload part 2, which involves the rest of the flight, which may or may not include a landing at Belfast. Many thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.